Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome to another episode of the BTSC Sunday broadcast of We Run the North. I'm Kevin Tate, guest contributor to BTSC from the Know It All podcast. And today we're going to talk about the AFC North potential first round draft picks for each team, who they might be looking at, what some of the needs are, and some of those things. First of all, before we begin today, like to just, as all Steeler Nation has the past probably 36 hours, offer my sincerest condolences to the Dwayne Haskins family. What a tragedy. I think we lost more than a player. We lost a good person in Dwayne Haskins. It seems, from all intents and purposes, from the things I hear behind the scenes with the Pittsburgh Steelers and some of the players and coaches and stuff like that, that he was just a great guy to have in the locker room. He was truly and sorely be missed. From a football perspective, I think he was really talented. And, disclaimer, I've been a Dwayne Haskins fan for him for a long time. I'm an Ohio State Buckeye fan. Attended Ohio State some many years ago. But I really thought Dwayne Haskins was a really potentially good player to have on the team. I'm not saying he would have won the job this year. I think he would have really competed. I think he would have potentially gave a serious run for the backup position this year. I'm anticipating Mitch Trubisky to win the starting position, but I think Dwayne could have pushed Mason for the backup position. And who knows and we'll talk about it, who knows if we'll draft the quarterback here in the first round of the draft this year. Don't know. For all intents and purposes, it looks like Pittsburgh could draft the quarterback at some point. They've done all their due diligence, all their homework on all the quarterbacks in the draft this year, with the top 5 or 6 quarterbacks in the draft. They've had quite a few come in for a visit this past week. So we'll see what Pittsburgh does. But yeah, just a really sad set of circumstances with Dwayne Haskins being struck by a vehicle. We won't speculate on why he was outside his vehicle and what he potentially may have been doing trying to cross the roadway. Not sure. I'm sure those things will come out as the FHP, Florida Highway Patrol, does their investigations. We'll probably get more answers here in the coming days. So just wanted to start out with that. Dwayne Haskins, RIP, you'll truly be missed. So now we'll talk about the draft and the potential draft picks some of the teams the AFC North could be looking at. The Cleveland Browns would be picking first out of our division rivals and foes. But as we know, they traded away their first round pick and many more first round picks for the rights to trade and acquire Deshaun Watson. So if we look at that as their this year's first round pick, because the Browns don't pick again, don't get their first pick in this draft to pick 44, and we'll talk about what they will do then. But acquiring Deshaun Watson, that's huge. Deshaun Watson, last time he played, I believe it would have been 2020. He was probably a top 5 or 6 quarterback. I'd have to say top 5 or 6 quarterback. He does everything. He can manipulate the pocket. He can move around. He can scramble. He can pick up yards with his leg. He can throw off platform. He throws for a high percentage, lots of touchdowns, fewer interceptions. And he took that Houston Texan team, who really didn't have, a lot of great teams, to the playoffs, I believe, twice. So picking him up is a huge acquisition. I think he comes in and makes the team instantly better than what Baker Mayfield's been doing the past few years. Put him in there, pair him with some of the weapons they have. Now they have Amari Cooper, still have Nick Chubb, still have Kareem Hunt. They signed David Njoku to a franchise tag, franchise tendered them. So they have weapons, and all these weapons that the Browns have had over the past few years will be made better, I believe, with Deshaun Watson. And we're just considering one of those first round picks they traded, talking about like that's their first round acquisition this year. So yeah, the Browns, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I anticipate, don't know how many games he'll miss this year. I see a suspension coming. I'm thinking somewhere in the range of 4 to 6 games. So, but when he comes back from suspension, maybe he'll have to knock some of the rust off. But I believe that the Browns will be better for having Deshaun Watson this year and moving forward, with this year's first round pick being one of the ones that they trade, much better than they were the past 2 or 3 years with Baker Mayfield. We're talking about a team in 2020, I believe, that was 11-5 and won a playoff game and probably could have beat the Kansas City Chiefs in the second playoff game, the divisional playoff round, not for Baker Mayfield. I mean, Baker had his chance at the end of the game to take the Browns down. Patrick Mahomes was hurt that game, if you remember, and Baker just couldn't get it done. In that same playoffs, the Kansas City Chiefs beat the Houston Texans and Deshaun Watson by coming back. I believe Houston was up 28-3, 24-3. Can't quite exactly remember the score, but Houston was up big, and they allowed Kansas City to come back and win. So, that year Kansas City beat Deshaun Watson and they beat Baker Mayfield. So we'll see what next year brings. I think the Browns will be a lot better, though, having used this year's first round on Deshaun Watson. Let me look at the live chat and see what some of you were saying. Say hello to some of the fans out there. Let's see what some of you are playing. George Teston, R.I.P. Dwayne. Absolutely, sir. Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. Outside Steeler fan said Dwayne Haskins, he would have at least been a reliable backup like Charlie Batch was for us. I completely agree, man. Completely agree. Brian Brown, Deshaun Watson stinks. His record is 28-26. Ooh, I'm scared. I think stinks is a strong way to kind of describe Deshaun Watson's play. I don't think we're scared of him. I don't think the Steelers fear any particular opponent on the other side. It's just not the way. It's just not the way we're cut, But Deshaun Watson is good. I mean, 28-26 is not an elite record. I believe Baker's record was like 28-27 or 29-28, something real similar. But Deshaun Watson obviously has a higher upside, and we'll see what he does this year and going forward. He has a 5-year deal, so we'll get to see what he's doing. Shaquille Gregory, you should do a mock draft. I'm no Brian Anthony Davis bad, and the guys have something coming up real soon, probably before the draft. So BTSC will have a couple of mock drafts with some of the live chat involved. And I know I was involved in some of the previous years, past 2 years, where I got to pick for one of the teams in the live mock draft. I believe they have on the Hangover the past couple of years is what it's been on. But we'll just wait and listen to see what's coming up. B Dirt. To be the mock draft. What are you talking about, B Dirt? I have no idea. Let's see. Wow. Judith Wilson. He does think. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I thought you said he does think. I thought you were agreeing with the Deshaun Watson take. But so we'll jump right into talking about what the Browns could potentially do with the 44th pick of the draft. That's when they actually will make their first pick in this year's draft. So we'll talk about that. I see some of the needs the Browns have being on the defensive side of the ball. I believe that's where they'll go. Um, Potentially a defensive end, defensive tackle. I think they potentially need some help in that linebacker room. Some of the names I'm hearing on the uh, edge rusher out of Oklahoma, Nick Bonito. He could be a potential draft pick of the Browns, and also from Oklahoma defensive tackle Perion Winfrey. I think with that 44th pick, we're looking at some. It's the second round, middle of the second round, and we're looking at some of the guys that could potentially go there. I think the Browns go defense. I think those are two potential names you could hear to Cleveland. Uh, if they want to be sneaky and do what they did last year in the second round, they drafted Owusu-Kora, linebacker from Notre Dame. He had some potential health concerns as it coming up on the draft, and he dropped. He was supposed to be a first round pick, and he dropped. I believe the Browns picked him around 48 or 50, somewhere like that last year. They want to do something similar and think forward, because they're gonna have a lot of money to pay out when Deshaun Watson's contract kicks in. They're paying Myles Garrett, they're paying Nick Chubb, they're paying Amari Cooper. All these guys they're paying. I think a tricky thing the Browns could do that would be good strategy moving forward, potentially draft David in Waba, edge rush from Michigan, who was a projected first round pick also, but injured his knee, tore ACL, I believe, at his Michigan's pro day a couple of weeks ago. He'll probably drop to a second round, so teams willing to draft him in the second round will certainly be getting a steal. I kind of like that pick potentially for the Steelers in the second round too, but I think the Browns could think that way. They'll be needing to, reload and won't have as much money as they had in the past years. You're paying Deshaun Watson $230 million over the course of 5 years, all guaranteed. So they need to start thinking about strategies like that. I think that could be a good pick. The Perion Winfrey, D tackle out of Oklahoma, could be a good pick. And the edge rusher, Nick Bonito out of Oklahoma, could be a good pick as well. So we'll see what they do. And those are just some of my thoughts on the Browns' potential draft this year in a couple of weeks. The draft is literally less than 3 weeks away. I mean, it was 3 weeks from this past Thursday, so today is Sunday. We're probably about a little over 18 days away. Not that far to go. I know we're all looking forward to the draft. So we got a couple more comments, then we'll move on to what the Baltimore Ravens might do. Let's see. What is your top 5 receivers that you think would be a match with the Steelers? Okay, JC. The top 5 receivers in the draft, I believe the top 2 are the Ohio State receivers. Garrett Wilson first, Chris Olave second. I know a lot of people like Drake London. Drake London is a matchup nightmare, kind of like similar to Chase Claypool. He doesn't have the twitchiness and the suddenness and the speed that some of these other guys have. He was injured. I don't believe he got to run his 40 at the combine, but he's just not fast as Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson. But he's a good red zone threat, and he's a matchup nightmare. I mean, like I said, he can probably win a lot of the 50-50 balls. I like Drake London. So if I'm naming the receivers in order for mine, from my perspective, my opinion, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jameson Williams, then Drake London, and then the 5th one would be depend on your flavor, would be Jahan Dotson or Treylon Burks. I'm really starting to like Treylon Burks a little more. I liked him during the season. He played at Arkansas, had an incredible season, I believe like 14 or 16 touchdowns. Put up really, really gaudy numbers in the SEC. He just didn't test as well at the combine. I believe like around 4.5 40. I think we were probably hoping from a scouts and analysts perspective that we see him in the 4.4 range. So he didn't do that, but he is 6'2", 225, really big target. Arkansas used him in a lot of different schematics and stuff like that. He's been compared to Deebo Samuels. I think that's a bit lofty comparison. Maybe a poor man's Deebo Samuel. He can maybe do some of the same thing. I don't see him having the same running back skills Deebo Samuels has showed that he has and possessed, but it still is an elite talent. Jahan Dotson, a little smaller. I believe he's probably about 5'10", 5'11", probably about 175, 180. Really fast. I believe he ran in the 4.3s. Really good in the slot. He was a really big part of Penn State's offense, and he's really talented. I think he's probably better than KJ Hamler that played at Penn State a couple of years ago. I like Jahan Dotson a lot also. We'll talk about what the Steelers might do when we get to them, but those are my top 5 receivers, just to answer the question that we have from AJC. Let's see. See somebody, Claude Bishop says Jahan Dotson is the best receiver in the draft. Wow. Okay. I can't argue with that. There's a lot of great receivers in the draft. Like I said, it just depends on your flavor. Like if you go to Baskin Robbins or Dairy Queen or one of the ice cream places and wherever you live, and it just depends on what your flavor is for that day, So, different people like different flavors. I believe for the Steelers offense, we need a guy that can play in the slot. I personally like what Chris Olave brings. I think he brings some of what Deontay Johnson brings in terms of being a polished route runner with a little more speed. Chris Olave's route running right now is at a professional level. I think he's ready for NFL. He's in the 4.4 speed, like I said, a little faster than Deontay. Maybe some of the same measurables and size and stuff. But if you had those two with Chase Claypool and interchange Deontay Johnson and Chris Olave in and out the slot, along with Freiermuth and the Najee and the running game and the revamped offensive line, I think we could be looking at a pretty potent offense, But other receivers work too. Jahan Dotson could work. The only one I think that doesn't work would be Drake London, because he doesn't give us that speed that I think we're going to be looking for if we were to draft. When we draft, not if we were, when we draft receiver in the draft, we'll be looking for a guy that's a speed guy, at least a 4.4 guy. Drake London is not as fast as Chase Claypool, but he gives you the same everything else in size and measurables and things like that. So I don't think that that's necessarily a match, but I think any of the other receivers would certainly be a match. Okay, let's talk briefly about what the Baltimore Ravens might do. The Baltimore Ravens pick number 14 in the first round. In Baltimore, you never know what Baltimore is going to do. That Eric DeCosta, their GM who took Ozzie Newsome's place, Baltimore really never let you know what they were going to do. They drafted Patrick Queen a couple years ago, middle linebacker. And before that draft, DeCosta said, well, we'll look at middle linebacker, but I don't think we'll draft middle linebacker. And what they did was draft middle linebacker, Patrick Queen. And he's been a really good pickup for them. He's probably been playing like, let me think before I say this. Yeah, he's been the best middle linebacker in our division since he's been there. So, kudos to Eric DeCosta for making that pick. This year, I'm not quite sure what the Ravens will do. I've heard speculation and rumors that the Ravens kind of go defensive heavy this year. I know they could be looking for interior defensive line presence. That screams at that pick at 14, that area of the draft, that screams Jordan Davis potentially from Georgia. Maybe Devontae Wyatt from Georgia, another Georgia kid. They could go edge. They could go with the guy Jeremiah Johnson from Florida State. I really like him there at the 14th pick for them to match with Oway, who they picked up last year from Penn State. The Ravens, Eric DeCosta and the Ravens, they usually always make solid draft picks. They could fool us and go O-line. I could see them taking Tyler Lindenbaum if he's still there. The Ravens don't usually invest first round capital off the line. They did a few years ago, 2016, I believe, with Ronnie Stanley at Notre Dame. They had the number 6 pick that draft. They were really, really bad that year. So they had a high pick and they took Ronnie Stanley. He's been hurt the past year, so he's supposed to come back potentially, but maybe when he comes back, he has 1 year left on his contract. Maybe they want to draft online, draft one of those tackles if they're available, and not have to pay Stanley, because they are going to have to pay Lamar Jackson coming soon. So just like I was talking about with the Browns potentially thinking ahead because of contract situations, same thing with the Ravens. The Ravens are going to have to pay Lamar Jackson big money, probably upwards of $40-45 million a year. So they have to start thinking, fiscally responsible about team building and what they do moving forward. So we'll see what happens. But the Ravens, I was watching a Ravens podcast earlier this week, and the guy said, and this surprised me because they do have Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey at their cornerbacks, but the guy says, I hope we don't pick Derek Stingley. Yeesh. I would not say that. I would hope he could drop to number 20. The Steelers had a potential chance of getting him. I think he's an elite corner. I think he's a one-on-one guy that can shut down some of the league's best receivers moving forward. Maybe not his rookie year, but year 2, year 3, I could see him being that guy. We're talking about a kid as a freshman that was the best corner in the nation the year LSU won the championship on a team with Joe Burrow. In practice, he was shutting down Jefferson from Minnesota, Jamar Chase, and the other guy that plays for the Carolina Panthers. They had three NFL receivers on their team that year, and Jamar Chase was doing his thing against all those guys in practice. So I really believe in Jamar Chase. I really believe in Derek Stingley having shut down and played against those top-notch receivers in LSU practices with a quarterback like Joe Burrow. But the Baltimore Ravens, I think we're on the, like I said, either defensive interior, edge rusher, or offensive lineman, probably center if Lindenbaum is there. I don't think they go defensive secondary just because they have 2 elite corners already, and they would be better served this year. But like I said, they got to think of moving forward. But they'd be better served this year getting some interior or edge help, or getting that center that's going to anchor your offensive line for the next 8 to 10 years. So we'll see what they do. Now let's look at a few of these comments again real quick. What do we have? This is interesting. The CUDA 70. Does anyone think the team this year will wear a number 3 on the helmet this year? The CUDA 70, I could see the team potentially doing that. Putting a little 3 decal on the helmet just to dedicate this season to Dwayne Haskins. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. That's an interesting thought. Let's see. The homie B Dirt, paying Lamar near $40 million will handcuff Baltimore in the worst way. I don't think he's a top 10 QB. B Dirt, I might agree with you. I don't know if he's a top 10 QB, but he's a top 10 playmaker at the QB position. Anytime Lamar Jackson's on the field, he's not a top 10 QB if we're just, like you said, if we're just evaluating from the pocket, dropping back, throwing the ball. But the fact that he can roll out and throw the ball and throw on the run and make plays with his legs, and at any point on any point of the field, if he gets a crease and he breaks it, we know it's to the house. So he's a top 10 quarterback as a playmaker from the quarterback position as a playmaker, which makes him elite, which Baltimore builds their offense around that thing too. So, you always have to game plan and worry about what he's potentially capable of, Lamar Jackson. Be dirty again. He's lightning in the bottle, but I'm not sold on him long term. That style of play sustainable for 8 years. Well, yeah, he's got hurt. He got hurt at the end of last year, so we will see. But I think they have to. I think they have to pay Lamar Jackson. So I think he'll get the contract. I think it's just a matter of when and not if. Um, Claude Bishop agrees with Cuda 70. They'll definitely wear number 3 on their helmets. I think they probably will. I think the organization, from upper management to down to Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin and the coaching staff, from Mike Sullivan and Matt Canada and those guys, I think they really were fond of Dwayne Haskins and the potential that he had as a player, but just as him as a person on the team. And if you saw Chase Claypool's tweet yesterday, he said he aspires to be what Dwayne Haskins was, always worried about everybody else, make sure everybody was good, and he aspires to be what Dwayne Haskins was as a person and a teammate. I think that's a huge compliment. Yeah, Chase Claypool even did a video talking about Dwayne Haskins. I was just with you yesterday, and he was kind of emotional and teary-eyed and stuff. It's really, really just a tragic, sad situation. But let's see, what's Shaquille Gregory? Do you think QB becomes a lock to be our round 1 pick now? Wow, Shaquille. I don't know, man. I mean, I think if they stand pat at 20, I don't think quarterback has to be the position. I think if the guy they want is there, I really think the Steelers are kind of set in the mobility of the quarterback. I think they really want that. I could see them potentially trading up as high as 10 to try and get Malik Willis. I don't think if they can't get Malik Willis, I think they stand pat at till 20. And it depends on who's available at 20. I mean, I can see them going Desmond Ridder. I like Desmond Ridder. I don't know if I like him at 20, but I do like Desmond Ridder. I think he's a really good quarterback. Played at Cincinnati. Their all-time winningest quarterback in school history. He's up there. He has numbers up there as far as in NCAA history, as far as a 4-year starter. He has really good all-time numbers. Took a non-power 5 school to the BCS college football playoffs. They beat Notre Dame this year. He's 6'3", about 215, runs a 4.5 40. Think he can do all the things the Steelers want. He has to work on his accuracy. I don't know that he's I don't know that he has a strong arm as some of the guys, as definitely not Malik Willis, but and probably comparable to Kenny Pickett, but Sam Howell has a really strong arm. I also think the Steelers, again, not at pick 20 in the first round, but I think there'll be some consideration for Matt Corral just because he ran an offense at Ole Miss that was RPO centric. He's a good runner of the football. He offers that dual threat ability. You put him in some of the RPO schemes with Najee Harris back there or Corral keeping or giving up to Najee. I think that could be a big threat, but not at pick 20. If they traded back in the first round and then picked him at pick 28, 29, and 30, I could be okay with either Ridder or Corral. I'm not such a personally, I'm not such a huge fan of Kenny Pickett or Sam Howell. I think most of the quarterback class is second or third round talent, but I think I think Pickett and Howell would be better served going in the early second round. Just my thoughts. Let's see. Reese Parson. I feel like they will draft a QB in the second round. They're probably receiver or corner in the first. That's not a bad strategy, Reese. Or Rico, my bad. Rico. Um, I like potentially receiver in the first if we have Chris Olave on the board. And I like corner in the first if we can get Stingley or the kid from Clemson. Is his name Booth? I think it's Booth. I like those guys in the first. I mean, but as I always say, I trust in Colbert and Tomlin to make whatever their decision they make, I'm on board with. I know those guys know what the team needs are, the pulse of the team, what other guys are doing. So in Colbert we trust. That's what we always say most years. So that's kind of where I'm at this year right now. In Colbert, I trust. So we talked about the Ravens. Now let's talk about the Bengals real quick and what the Bengals could potentially do in this year's draft. The Bengals were Super Bowl runners up. So that means they pick 31 in the draft, next to last in the first round. They really had a bounce back year last year. Joe Burrow coming on just gangbusters. Got those guys to a 10-7 record. Probably could at least been 11-5 had they played their starters that last week against the Browns. The Bengals needs, and they addressed them somewhat in free agency. They got a lot of offensive line help, but I still think that doesn't preclude them from going offensive line again in the draft, depending on who's there. They could go tackle or interior. I can see them going either way. I think you never can have when you have your elite quarterback, probably a Joe Burrow. Man, I want to say top 5. It's a little early for that. So top 7 or 8 quarterback right now, Joe Burrow. You want to do everything you can do to protect him. So I think they go offensive line. Maybe Trevor Penning, maybe Zion Johnson from Boston College, the guard. I think there'll be a few options at offensive line for the Bengals when they pick, and I think they go just best available, regardless of position, whether it's tackle or guard. There's not going to be a center that's going to go in the first round again after Tyler Lindenbaugh. We potentially got him going to Baltimore. But for whatever reason, he was there at 31. They would definitely take Tyler Lindenbaugh. And I think they'll take the best tackle or best guard, BPA at that point at pick 31. The other position they could go, I believe, they could go potentially safety to put somebody back there with Jesse Bates. They franchise tag Jesse Bates. So they pick the first round safety. He would be that guy. He would be the guy that would be back there with Jesse Bates this year and then potentially replacing them next year because they franchise Jesse Bates this year and maybe they don't want to pay him next year. Maybe they move on from him and, value that rookie contract of an upcoming highly talented, highly valued first round rookie. That could be a potential plan. As I said already, talking about the Browns and the Ravens, you have to be able to be forward thinking and, plan for the future. So I think they could draft safety a Daxton Hill, a Jaquan Brisker, Lewis Seen from Georgia. Any one of these safeties, they feel like they could pair back there with Jesse Bates and then maybe potentially replace him next year with that same safety. Then you're thinking you're getting ahead of yourself. You're getting ahead of the game, because at some point real soon here, better sooner than later, the Bengals are going to have to pay Joe Burrow. So, that's just something to consider. But I say the Bengals go offensive line or that back part of that secondary safety with the potential to pair somebody with Jesse Bates and ultimately maybe replacing him with that same player next year. So we'll see how that goes. Now we'll get ready to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and what our potential draft prospects might be in this year's first round. Let's see what some of the live chatters saying before we jump into the Steelers. We got about 9 or 10 minutes left. Let's see. This is Paul Schrift. We can get a backup out of free agency to cover the tragic loss of Haskins. So I don't think there's any changes to the plans. I would agree with that, Paul. I don't think we're pigeonholed into drafting the quarterback, and not even with yesterday's strategy. I still think the Steelers draft what they want to draft. It doesn't have to be a quarterback, but if they don't draft the quarterback, right now we have Trubisky and Mason Rudolph. I think they'll potentially bring in somebody. Either they'll draft somebody or they'll sign another low tier veteran, and then they'll get somebody in undrafted free agency. I know one of the guys I really like, far as we're talking about late round prospect, maybe even an undrafted free agent prospect, is Chris Oladukan from South Dakota. He seems like he has some potential. Obviously, he doesn't have first round potential when coming to start, but he could be a viable backup or a third team quarterback with somebody you just keep in your room to groom and work on, and we see what could happen from that. He's like 6'3", 6'4". Played in South Dakota last year. Probably weighs about 225. He originally played at USF. He's from Tampa, Florida himself. He's from USF. Yeah, he played high school at Sickles High School in Tampa, Florida. Like I said, he's a good prospect. I mean, and you bring him in the room and you see what he has over the next couple of years. If you can get him for cheap and he can make the roster as a practice squad quarterback or a third team quarterback. In the first round, let's see what some of the chat is saying again. Shaquille Gregory again. I hope we take Olave with our round 1 pick. A lot of people wouldn't be happy about that. Well, Shaquille, I'm not one of those people. I would be very happy with Chris Olave. If we don't go quarterback, I like Chris Olave unless Derek Stingley is on the board and Jordan Davis. If all things, available for us to pick from, Jordan Davis, Derek Stingley, Chris Olave are all on the board, I would have to go Jordan Davis. And I probably have to go Derek Stingley second, but Chris Olave would definitely be third, and he would be one of the people one of the players I'll be looking to pick early in the draft, because we know our need at wide receiver. We have the same thing where, we hear this Deontay was a third round pick, Deontay Johnson, and so there's not that fifth year option on him, and he'll be looking for big money this offseason or going into next year. And I don't think we sign him. I think we, if we have to franchise tag him next year, then that's what we do. But if we were to draft Chris Olave, we could potentially let Deontay Johnson go, and you have a trade. At the very least, we'd have Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson, and Chris Olave this year to go on that offense and give Mitch Trubisky or Mason Rudolph all kinds of weapons. So I like the potential drafting of Chris Olave myself. Let's see. George Teston. I like that pick, Tate. Thanks, George. You like the Olave pick? What are we talking about? Let's see. Clarence Washington. I'd be thrilled to get Olave if not a corner. I agree with you. The only corner I take over Olave, though, because Sauce Gardner is not going to be there. So the only corner I take over Olave is Derek Stingley. If he happened to fall, I think his pro day was so good last week, and really, a lot of the coaches and general managers were there. I don't think he drops down to 20 now. I see him going maybe 12 to the Minnesota Vikings or Philadelphia, one of their 2 picks. I can't see them passing up on that talent if he's there. But I would love Stingley, and I really like Olave. Garrett Wilson won't be there for us. I think Deshaun Dotson would Jahan Dotson would be there, but I think 20 might be too early for him. I think maybe a little later in the first round. And Drake London, I think he'll go before we pick too, but it'll be to a team that wants that big wide receiver that can get the 50-50 balls and things like that. So Treylon Burks, I potentially like him too. He doesn't give us the speed that we need, but he would definitely give us somebody in the slot and somebody that seems compatible with Matt Canada's offense and all the motion and jet sweeps and all the different things that he did in Arkansas. He even ran a little bit of Wildcat. I could see Treylon Burks being a good pick. Like I said, not the speed we need, but if I'm picking a receiver that's potentially could be there at pick 20, I like Chris Olave best. I don't think Garrett Wilson will be there. Jameson Williams could be there, and I like Jameson Williams. I think Jameson Williams had a really good year at Alabama, but I know Jameson Williams because, like I said, I'm an Ohio State Buckeye fan, and I know Jameson Williams when he played for the Buckeyes. He was always a big play threat, but he couldn't get on the field over Olave and Garrett Wilson. That's why I happen to think those guys are better because they were all in the same room at one time, and Jameson Williams wasn't the dude, which is why he transferred to Alabama. But I do like Jameson Williams and that 4.3 speed, 6'2 size, coming off an injury. I think he could be a good pick at 22. If I'm picking between the two, I go Olave. So what do you guys think the Steelers should do in this year's 2022 NFL draft with pick 20? Or either of you have some scenarios where you trade up. I'm just asking the live chat, what do you guys think we should do? I'm open to any of those potential things. I would love to see, and that's how the Steelers do it. They set themselves up where they're not pigeonholed into making a particular draft pick. I mean, there's been some noise about Kyle Hamilton falling. I like Kyle Hamilton a lot. I don't know if he falls at 20, but if he falls like to 14 or 15, or if you're the Steelers, do you make a trade and try and trade up to get Kyle Hamilton? We need a safety, right? I could even see the Steelers still signing Minkah Fitzpatrick, and if Kyle Hamilton was there, they'd still take him. I mean, I think Terrell Austin, Mike Tomlin, and Brian Flores can find a way to use all that multiple talent at the safety position. You know, I think they Honey Badger could play in the slot, put Kyle Hamilton back at strong safety with Minkah back there. I think that would be a good problem to have. We always talk about fit, but good coaches make good talent fit for the talent. They don't try and fit it to a scheme. They just put those players and playmakers on the field to make plays. And I like what the potential of that could be. Let's see what the homie B Dirt is saying again. B Dirt said, take a punter in the first round. Come on, B Dirt. No ridiculous comments, man. We took a punter last year. Big Press. Presley Harvin. We took him last year in the 7th round. I think he's going to be he'll be our punter for the next 10, 12 years. So we did do that last year, but it wasn't in the first round. Let's see. Sherry Baston, D lineman, because you can't trust Tuitt and the other guys are getting old. I agree with you, Sherry. Yeah, Tuitt's 28 years old. I believe he'll be 29 to start this season. I like Tuitt if he comes back. He's rested. If his mentality, his mental is back in the game, I think he'll be a good addition. But we do need to add some youth to that D line room. Do we do it in the first round? A lot of the guys will be going early. Like I said, I like Jordan Davis. If he happens to fall to 20, you run up to the podium to get that guy. Devontae Wyatt from Georgia, because I believe if we draft wide receiver or corner in the first, I think we can come back and pick up somebody like Travis Jones from UConn in the second. Maybe even the guy I talked about for the Browns, Perrion Winfrey out of Oklahoma. So there are some guys that we can add youth and talent to the room in the second round and still get that elite level potential wide receiver or corner in the first round. But I have no idea what the Steelers are going to do because it could be quarterback in the first round. It could be O-line in the first round. I have no idea what they might do. Let's see what Rob Fithoff, pick 20, wide receiver. The closer we get to the draft, I feel wide receiver in his immediate need now and for the future. And the Steelers, great show. Well, thanks, Rob. And I don't disagree with you. Like I was just saying about Chris Olave, they could have him for a year with Deontay Johnson and Chase Claypool, and then let Deontay Johnson walk next year in free agent. Even if we don't trade him, we would get a compensatory pick the following year. So, and with his production and what he would get paid, that would be probably a third round compensatory pick. So I would be okay with that. However that works, I think that could be a real thing right there. Getting the number one receiver this year and see what happens going forward with the number one receiver that we draft in the first round, Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, and then let's sort it out on the field. Ron Chess, listen, Steelers drafting QB. Tomlin, Colbert think Canada's offense needs a mobile QB. Have one, Trubisky. I don't disagree, but you don't have to get a mobile QB at 20. You could get a mobile QB, Rob, at 52. You could pass on quarterback in the first round if you don't get your guy, which their guy I think would be Malik Willis and maybe Desmond Ridder. But I think in the second round, you're still looking at potentially getting maybe a Matt Corral, definitely a Sam Howell, and there are just some other options to go where you get the best. You don't force yourself into drafting a quarterback at 20, but who knows? We don't know what they will do. Let's see. Shaquille has a question. Do you think D Johnson's worth the first round pick? I personally don't think a team would trade a first round pick for Deontay Johnson this year because there's so many options at receiver in this year's first round, and those guys are cost controlled. Deontay Johnson could go somewhere for 1 year for a first round pick, and then next year, hey, he's going to want money. You got to pay him, right? So I wouldn't trade a first round pick for Deontay Johnson. I would just take my shot in the draft and draft a receiver that I have under cost control for 5 years and do it that way. If I was another team, I wouldn't trade for a first rounder for Deontay Johnson. Let's see. Just a couple more comments. We'll get out of here. I will hope they trade down to pick up more draft picks. This is from Extra Black. I hope they trade down to pick up more draft picks. Steelers definitely need at least 2 wide receivers. First pick would be Wyatt or Brisker. Wow, Devontae Wyatt from Georgia. That's a good pick. He's a stud. I agree. Trade back if you're going to pick him or Brisker because I think both of those guys go late first, early second. So you could trade back, acquire a little bit more draft capital, and then pick one of those guys and have acquired another, say, 4th round pick. So I agree with you, Extra Black. I like that. We already checked out that one. So okay, so what about Joe Hayden? This is from Douglas Roser. Joe Hayden, I like Joe Hayden a lot. Joe Hayden's 32, going to be 33 years old, and Joe Hayden is made big money. I believe he made like 11, 12 million last year against the cap. I would like if Joe Hayden wanted to come back for a lesser role and lesser money. Say he wanted to come and be the 3rd or 4th corner and get paid $4 or $5 million a year, I would be with that. But Joe Hayden has to do what's best for Joe Hayden. He could offer a hometown discount to the Steelers. We love him in Steeler Nation. But let's be honest, Joe Hayden's not getting any more, he's not getting any younger, not getting any more big contracts. So I think he has to go with wherever the money is. I mean, he's made enough money that he could, who am I to say, but he could turn down a few $1 million a year to come back for the Steelers. But like I said, this is probably his last contract. So he has to maximize whatever his potential is in the market right now. So I like Joe Hayden coming back. I don't know that he does I think we get through the draft and teams see what they need, and maybe somebody signs Joe Hayden. Maybe nobody's all offers him the money that he wants. He decides to come back to the Steelers. That would be great. Then we would have a room with my guy. What's my guy's name? Came from San Francisco. I'm forgetting his name. We got Levi Wallace. We got Akilo Witherspoon. That's what I'm trying to think of. Cam Sutton. If Joe Hayden is fourth after those guys, and you still have Justin Lane and James Pierre and those guys competing all in the same room in training camp, and we see whoever comes out of that. I like that. I mean, so I like Joe Hayden potentially coming back. Sherry's comment on that is Joe Hayden to play safety. That could work. A lot of old guys, elite corners, go to safety. Joe is a little bit small, but he's no smaller than Honey Badger, right? But Honey Badger has more experience in playing safety. Joe Hayden would be a great cover safety. And how he made that tackle last year in the Tennessee game, he looks like he'd be good at tackling and good in run support too. But, I think we have to see how things shake out as far as that's concerned. Okay, well, before I get ready to go here, because we're about to wrap up, we've been on here for about 50 minutes. I'm going to say the Pittsburgh Steelers pick 20. This is just my opinion. They pick Chris Olave in the first round, and or if Jordan Davis is there, like I said, Jordan Davis is the guy. I wouldn't even be mad if they picked was it Devin Lloyd from middle linebacker from Utah? Because again, yeah, we're good this year at the linebacker position, but we're thinking forward now. We got Miles Jack on a 2-year deal, Devin Bush on the last year of his rookie contract. We didn't offer him the 5th-year option. So you see how Devin Bush plays. If he plays well, great. We have a abundance of talent at middle linebacker. If he doesn't play well, then we just move Devin Lloyd, beside Miles Jack next year to play that position. And at the very least, they all play well. We got 3 great middle linebackers because again, it's about your pieces on the chessboard, not necessarily what piece it is. The coaches, we entrust the coaches to put them in all those players, great players, in position to where they can all maximize their talents and potential. So, if we have 3 middle linebackers and we just come up with a defense where we can have 3 middle linebackers on the field and different sub packages and stuff like that. So that would be okay too. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me on this Sunday edition, another edition of AFC North Talk. We Run the North. I'm sorry, I watch AFC North Talk sometimes. We Run the North is this show. Thanks for joining me. You can find me again on the Know It All podcast. But right now it's 6:15 Central, the Know It All podcast. I'm ready to jump off here and going on to my podcast at 6:30. Check us out here on YouTube. Thanks for joining us on this BTSC We Run the North. Tomorrow, check out Jeff Hardman's audio podcast, The Ride or Die Crew. I love listening to that. I have something going on every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning when that's on. So it's actually when I'm doing something, I get to check it out all the time from start to finish. I really enjoy that one. Tomorrow evening, 5 p.m., we have The Hangover with the homie Bad, Brian Anthony Davis, Tony Defio, and Shannon White. Check those guys out. Love watching that too because I'm usually available Monday afternoon. But I check out pretty much all the shows on the BTSC network, and then I'm subscribed to the YouTube and to, like I said, Jeff's audio only, The Ride or Die Crew. And so and I read the articles on the website. So it's lots of great Steeler content here at BTSC, and we thank you guys for joining us. We'll check you out next Sunday. And again, R.I.P. Dwayne Haskins. Prayers and condolences to your family and your wife. And thanks for joining us. You guys have a great week, and let's go Steelers. Peace.